they develop emotional attachments to the benefits. I think that's what you have to understand, emotional attachment to the specific benefits rather than the price. Then they go, okay, no, I could afford an extra $50 to not leave that benefit out. So we're going to go through and we're going to fill out a couple of financial inventories, and we'll do a couple of different scenarios and how I would do that. So we're going to start off with we'll just do like a final expense appointment. So we'll pretend, Sean, he's 72 and we're going to fill out the financial inventory. So let me zoom in a little bit. Maybe that'll help you guys. Perfect. All right. So sit down with Sean. Hey, Sean, great, fantastic. Let's go ahead and run through it. Like I said, just a couple minutes of questions. You had said that you are, 72. Okay, great. And, what'd you say your date of birth was? I'm not going to get my math right, so no one check me on this. Oh, it's 8/15, 1950. Okay, fantastic. Okay, and you're working, retired. Okay, great. What'd you do before you worked? I worked on the railroad. Okay, retired. Railroad. Okay, and a couple questions on your income. Are you receiving any Social Security, pension, retirements, anything like that? Yep, I got a Social Security and a pension. Okay, ballpark, how much do you make per month? About $3,000. Okay, how much of that is from your Social Security, and how much of that's from your pension? About $2,000 for my Social Security, about $1,000 for my pension. So I always break this down. This is really important, especially if you're going husband-wife. And it might not be as applicable here, but I always break down where the income's coming from. So I go 2,000, I'll put Social Security underneath it, and 1,000 pension. Okay, if I had a husband, wife who were Social Security, pension, one of them still working, I'm going to be crossing out different incomes of what they can keep when the other person dies. And I'll do that in a second when we do the couple, and you guys will see how that works. Okay, Sean, you a smoker or non-smoker? Non-smoker, great. I typically hop down here to the medical conditions right away before I jump into medications. You can say, hey, Sean, go grab all your medications for me. That's one way to do it. Write it all out, flip over the piece of paper if you have to. But I go, hey, you ever had a heart attack, stroke, TIA, cancer, any stents, diabetes, neuropathy, high blood pressure, etc.? No heart attack, no stroke, no TIA, no cancer. Okay, great. No stents. Okay, I am diabetic. Okay. You take pills or insulin? I take the pills. Take metformin? Yep. All right, metformin. You got any diabetic neuropathy? What's that? Tingling in the hands and feet? No. Any high blood pressure? Yep. Okay, what are you taking? I take losartan. Okay. Is that the only blood pressure medication you take? No, I take another one. What's that one called? I don't know. Go grab your bottles real quick. Okay, I take metropolol. When you're brand new, these medications are going to be gibberish for you. Write them down anyways. Just have full confidence. Have them spell it if you have to. Then you can go on Google. The client has no idea what you do or don't know. So, okay, and lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, no. Any asthma, COPD, no. Okay, and any thyroid issues? Yep. You taking any thyroid medication? Yep. Okay, what's that one called? Levothyroxine. Any anxiety or depression medication? Nope. Kidney or liver disease? Nope. Had any major surgeries? No, I had a knee surgery. Okay. When was that? It was 2020. All right. And any crazy family health history? Your parents alive? No. Mom's alive. Dad passed away. Okay. What did dad pass away from? He passed away from cancer. Okay. Dad, cancer. Now, the reason we're doing all this, guys, the reason that we're filling it out like this is because there's two different reasons, two things you're trying to accomplish with the financial inventory. One is we're trying to figure out what is their underwriting position, meaning what product can I place them in? And the other part is going to be what is going to be the financial situation of the survivor. So in this scenario, we'll say that the beneficiary is Sean's son. Okay, he's single, single widow with a son. So now I want to know, what is his son's financial position going to be? And we'll get to that in a moment. But I also want to know, what can Sean qualify for? And that's the whole reason we're asking these questions. Now, I'll keep going through the financial inventory. So I'll pop back up to the top. This is just kind of the order that I do it in. You know, hey, you own or you rent your house? Well, rent. Okay, how much is your rent? $700 a month. Okay, so now what I see here is I see he makes $3,000 a month, and he's got 700 so far in expenses. Okay, I want to find out what's coming in versus what's going out. Now, obviously, this isn't the most comprehensive sheet that has every spot for expenses right in the margin. Really simple. Hey, Sean, you got a car payment or anything? Nope. Car's paid off. Okay, great. Outside of your rent, you just got like utilities and stuff. What would you say ballpark your utilities are running you? About 300 a month. Okay. About 300 on utilities. Okay. You got cable. Yep. About 100 a month. Okay, and food, phone, internet, insurance. Yep, yeah, phone, about 50. Internet, 75. Groceries, spend about 100 a week, about 400. So now I'm starting to add these things up. And I don't need to be perfectly exact, but I want to ballpark find out where he's at. So if I go 700, 1,000, 1,100, 1,150. Let's call this 1,200, 1,600-ish. So, okay, Sean, would you say, you know, ballpark, you got about 1,600 to 2,000 going out? Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to overestimate here and say you got 2,000 in expenses and you got about 3,000 in income. So you're saying we got about 1,000 left over. Yes. Okay. And are you saving that? Yes, no, whatever. I don't actually really need to know what you're doing with it. I'm not the tax guy. I'm just trying to make sure that whatever we do here, that you can afford for the rest of your life. Does that make sense? Yes. So like I'm kind of building up that value. I want to make sure this is going to be affordable, but I also, if Sean only has $200 a month left over, I'm not going to show him something that's $300 a month. If he only has 100 left over, I'm not going to show him the $200 a month plan. So I need to know. So I know that I've got a little bit of wiggle room here because of what he has coming in versus what he has going out. All right. So now I can come down a little bit further here. And what do we have here at the bottom? We've got the golden question. What do you have that acts like life insurance that could offset, you know, this says mortgage, could offset the cost of your expenses? Do you have anything that's like life insurance, 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, significant savings, CDs, etc.? Yes, no. They say no. Okay, whatever. No big deal. Yes, I've actually got an old 401k. Okay, great. And how much is in it? Let's say 75K. Okay, great. In this scenario here, agents they'll find themselves going off on a rabbit trail, trying to sell an annuity here because they know we can. The best thing you can do, even if it's 750,000, circle it, put a little star next to it. We're coming back to that at the end of the appointment after you've done your job. After you sold them the insurance, we're coming back to that. It's not time to start selling annuities yet, but now you know, just keep that in the back of your mind. And then obviously, do you have any life insurance? Well, I had some at work, but I'm retired. Do you have anything private now? Yeah, I've got a small private policy through Lincoln Heritage. And it's a $5,000 policy just for a basic cremation. And how much do you pay for it? I pay $52 a month. Okay, great. So now I know that he already has $5,000 in insurance. Okay. And obviously, you know, Sean, you already had the insurance. It was $5,000. You know, you were just looking to get a little bit extra because you didn't feel like that was going to be enough, right? Yes. Okay, great. So now at this point, this thing's filled out. And if I'm brand new, what do? If I'm brand new, I pull out my phone, I take a picture of it, and I send it to my manager. And I say, hey, Josh, I'm sitting here with Sean. He's 72. You know, let me know if you're available. I call him up, call Josh. Hey, you got the financial inventory? Great. Hey, I'm sitting here with Sean. He's 72. He's a non-smoker. He takes metformin, losartan, and metoprolol, and levothyroxine. And here's big, easy key to help be a better underwriter for your manager is go on Google, type in metformin and say, what's it for? And then put in parentheses, that one's for diabetes. This one's for blood pressure. This one's also for blood pressure. And this one's for thyroid. I've been doing this for 3 years and I've sat in thousands of appointments. I know most of the medications, but we've all sat down and there's random medications that you're like, what the heck is that? Because here's the thing is if you don't put parentheses next to it for what it is, it's just going to take me an extra 30 seconds on the phone with you to jump on Google, because that's what I'm doing. So like if you could help skip a step for your underwriter who's helping you, that is helpful. Somebody can look at it and say, okay, that's not a big deal. That's all that's for, no big deal. So we obviously go ahead and we fill this out. So, all right, so I've got my financial inventory. I call up Josh. Okay, hey, I'm sitting here with Sean. He wants to, he doesn't feel like 5,000 is enough. He's got about $1,000 left over. He really wants to, get buried actually. And he wants to make sure he's got some money left behind for his son. So now Josh on the phone, he says, okay, I want you to show him a couple different options. We're going to go with Americo Eagle, and we're going to show him 3 different options. We're going to show him, max coverage, 40,000, because he's got some money left over, and then show him, 30,000 and 20,000. So now we're going to do a 3-option close. So what do? I go ahead and I jump on my quote tool. So I'll go ahead and pull up the quote tool real quick. I jump on the quote tool here. I go to Nebraska, or no, Sean's in, not in Nebraska. Oh no, he is in Nebraska. Yep. Go to Nebraska, Americo Eagle, create, 72, non-smoker, 40,000. So I'm still on the, so now at this point I'm writing down on my paper, and I'll show you guys in a second what I'm writing here. Actually, let's see. So Americo Eagle, 40,000, 380, 87 a month. Design, 30,000, run. 286.61 a month. And 20,000 is going to be 192. Now, I think a big mistake that a lot of new agents make is they immediately go, okay, I've got these 3 different options for you. Which one do you want? Well, you haven't built any value. So this is really important. So at this point, I wrote this down, but if I'm sitting in person, I don't let the client see that I've wrote this down. If I'm doing telesales, they obviously have no idea what I wrote down, but I've got my numbers in front of me, so I don't have to go back to the quote tool. So what I do is before I go ahead and I show the client what I have on the other side of the piece of paper, I want to go ahead and build some value. So how do I go ahead and build value? Okay, Sean, so we've got this company. Company is by the name of Americo. Now, they've been around for over 100 years. They're typically who I submit my healthiest individuals through. Healthiest meaning least amount of medications, least amount of prescriptions. Now, there's a sheet that we have. It's like the 10 benefits to a whole life policy. That's all I'm pulling these benefits from. I just happen to have it memorized. When I was in the home, I used to slide the piece of paper in front of them rather than writing it out. But I'd say, okay, so this is, a whole life plan, meaning that's going to go all the way till age 120. It's never going to expire. The policy is going to double if it's an accident. So that means that if you have a $40,000 policy and you die in an accident, that 40,000 is going to turn into 80,000. If it's 30,000, 30,000 turns into 60,000. If it's a common carrier accident, it's actually triple indemnity. And if it's a plane, train, someone else is driving, bus, then it's going to triple. But if it's an accident, fall off a ladder, putting up Christmas lights, slip and fall. I would look down at the carpet or the floor, and I'd be like, if you slip on the wood floor, you trip on the carpet, whatever, I'd look around and try to find an accident that could happen. It's going to double in the event of an accident. It is never going to increase in price. It's never going to decrease in benefit. So, hey, Sean, there's a lot of companies out there online that, will get you in for one low introductory price. Then every couple of years, they're going to increase the price on you. This one's going to stay the same price for the rest of your life. You're on fixed income. You see why it would be important to have fixed expenses, correct? Yes. Okay. And also the death benefit's never going to decrease. So it's not going to go from 40,000 down to 30,000 down to 20,000. For as long as you live, as long as you keep paying this benefit, this premium, the benefit's going to stay the same all the way until age 120. Does that make sense? Yes. Okay, great. So last till age 120, it's going to double in the event of an accident. It's never going to increase in price. It's never going to decrease in benefit. It's going to pay out tax-free. And it's going to avoid probate in court. So tax-free, lottery you got to pay taxes on, life insurance you don't. This is going to go to your family. They don't have to pay taxes on. Avoid probate in court. That's a huge pain in the butt. When it comes to, losing somebody, going to your son, we want to make sure this is an immediate thing rather than your other assets that are going to be tied up in probate. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay, great. So now I'm going to start showing some options. But even before I show the exact options here, what's going to be included in each option? So he already had a $5,000 policy that was going to go ahead and take care of cremation. So he really wanted to be buried. So the 20,000, I could write underneath it, burial plus 10,000 for son. For the 30,000, I could write burial plus, actually we could do it this way. We'll go burial is going to cost 10, but then you got final expenses. Final expenses could cost another 5 plus 5,000 for son. And then this, we go burial plus final expenses plus 15,000 for son. And this one, burial plus final expenses plus 25,000 for son. So now one of the things you can do is when someone goes, oh, that's too expensive, rather than just going, okay, well, what can you afford? You go, what do you want to leave off of here? So you can actually say, well, do you want to leave less for your son? Do you want to not be buried and actually just be cremated? Do you want to get rid of the extra money that's going to be there for your final expenses, like getting your apartment cleaned out, transportation of body, any medical bills, etc. So now rather than, saying, okay, you can't afford $380 a month, how about $280? How about $192? You start pulling benefits. So whether you structure it how I structure it, or you structure it another way, like depending on the why that you got out of it, are going to be the benefits that you're going to put into this policy. So you're finding out what they might use the insurance for, and then you're pulling benefits away. So rather than saying, hey, let's do this one because this is what you can afford, I say, do you want to leave less money for your son? Do you want to make sure there's money for your son and the burial, but we don't need any money for the hospital? They develop emotional attachments to the benefits. I think that's what you have to understand. Emotional attachment to the specific benefits rather than the price. Then they go, okay, no, I could afford an extra $50 to not leave that benefit out. So in this option, this is a 3-option close. So I've just gone through and I said, hey, Americo, been around for over 100 years, typically who I submit my healthiest individuals through, blah, blah, blah. It's going to last till age 120. It's going to double in the event of an accident, never going to increase in price, never going to decrease in benefit. It's going to pay out tax-free. It's going to avoid probate in court. And what we talked about is making sure that this would leave enough money for your burial, your final expenses, and some extra money for your son, correct? Okay, great. So I got 3 options for you, Sean, and we'll see kind of which one makes the most sense for you based on your budget here. So we've got $40,000 for $380 a month. That's going to make sure your burial's taken care of. All your final expenses is going to leave $25,000 for your son. We've got $30,000, which is going to be $286. It's got your burial, your final expenses, and $15,000 for your son, and then $20,000, which is going to be your burial, your final expenses, and $5,000 for your son. Now, Sean, which one of those makes the most sense if you could qualify? It's simple. Don't overcomplicate it. A lot of times they would just slide them the piece of paper and then they'd look at it. And a lot of times they pick the middle one. Now, obviously, I skipped a lot of steps with the building of the value and the budget to make sure it's all going to work. We're just going to assume budget's not really an issue. Most of the time, if you do a good job with this and building the value, the client typically picks the middle one when you do a good 3-option close. It's typically what happens. So another scenario would be, I don't do the other two prices and I only show max coverage. Hey, Sean, this may or may not work for you. But my company, they actually require me to just let you know what the max amount of coverage is. And then at that point, if we need to scale it back, we can scale it back. So 40,000 in coverage, that would definitely cover your burial and your final expenses. And it'd leave about 25,000 behind for your son. And that's gonna be 380.87. Then you just don't talk. You just let them make a decision. So whether I show them three options and say, hey, which one of these options would make the most sense for you? And it's also, hey, we also don't even know if we can qualify for anything today. But if you could qualify, which one of these options would make sense? Hey, we don't even know if we can qualify, but if we could qualify, do you feel like that 380 could disappear into your budget? It's not going to make you feel stressed out. It's going to give you peace of mind, not stress you out. And he's either going to say, yep, that works. Or he's going to say, no, that would stress me out. That's too much. Now we can kind of top down sell where I go, okay, if you're top down selling, you show max coverage, then you ask them what their budget is. Hey, Sean, what's the absolute most that you would be willing to spend on insurance? The absolute most, 200. Okay, great. If it's 200, what do? I go back over to my quote tool. I jump into design. I switch over to use the premium amount instead. And now I go 200, run. Now what's it say? It says the most coverage they're going to give me for 200 is $20,813. Okay, so Sean, for, and this is basically, 20,000 here, just a few dollars extra. But hey, the best they're going to give you is 20,813. Okay. 20,813 for 200 a month. And he told you that's the most he'd be willing to spend on the insurance. So he already told you that's what he's willing to spend. So at that point, if he tells you that's what he's willing to spend, now it's just, here's what we're going to do. I think this is a really important part where most people lose the sale, is they're waiting for the client to say, okay, let's start an application. Let's go ahead and get this started. No, it's up to you to tell the client, here's what we're going to do next. So if I go through and I show three options and he goes, hey, Sean, we don't even know if you could qualify. The insurance company's got to think about you first. I know you're going to want to think about it, but if you could qualify, which one of those options makes the most sense? The middle one. Okay, great. Go ahead and grab your driver's license and either a voided check or something with bank info, and we're going to go ahead and submit the request for coverage. Okay, it's going to take us about 5 or 10 minutes. Got to run a quick HIPAA authorization. We're going to go ahead and submit the request for coverage. I'm pulling it up now. You're very assumptive. Again, it doesn't matter if you're in the home or you're doing a telesale. Like, I still write this stuff out to me in front of myself because I'm trying to have them visualize that in their mind. Or the next level is when you get really good at this, you're having the client write that down. Hey, Sean, go ahead and grab a pen and a paper. First thing I want you to write at the top of the paper is Americo. The next thing I want you to write is the company's been around for 100 years. Okay, the next thing I want you to write is this. The next thing I want you to write is that. Now the client's got what I just wrote in front of them. Does that make sense, guys? So it's again, it's just the psychology behind it. So I'm writing it out in the home. They're seeing me do it. And then they're writing it out when I'm doing a telesale.